1 minute, guys.
Glad to see you again. Glad to see you again, Raymond.
Oh yeah, Doug, long time no chat.
Man, I tell you, that was badass this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying so.
Because every time I
You
do
should
it,
have
like,
already received that email as well, I'm hoping.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. That was great. And you know, yeah, no, I'm fascinated. Is anybody else on the call yet?
Yeah, we got a few others, but you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I work with businesses and founders in my day job. And so that's why I was asking about the business. It's just fascinated to learn about, the focus in the business and where you guys are headed.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'm glad I could go into that a little, which I don't cover much on that particular call, but I went in pretty deep into that on some of these workshops last week specifically. I think I went a bit down that trend of how myself and my two business partners, the three co-owners of Audience Lab, met, why we started this company, how we got the idea, our initial company, where that's. I gave a lot of background and context on last week's workshop. And then back in school, in the sales channel specifically, all of my weekly workshops are posted within 2 hours after they end. So if you want to go back and check out any of my prior ones, they're all in that sales channel. Every Tuesday, you're going to see a new post from me. And then today's will be there within 2 hours after I end today's call. So you can feel free to go back and check out any older ones based on the topic or, whatever was in the main description there.
And what's the purpose of this call or this?
I think what she's saying.
Great question. I'm just about to dive into that. I just have a couple more people coming in here. And you had a question or two, or you let off, but yeah, that's exactly what I want to cover here because every week, as I always say, guys, there's always kind of new people. Doug, I don't know if you have background noise, but I'm just going to mute you. I'm not sure if it's from you.
No, you're totally fine. I will.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I just had something. Yeah, now the feedback's gone, I believe. I'm still hearing some there. All right, I'm going to mute you too as well, Stephen. There we go. Now I got no feedback. I can hear myself think. Thanks, guys. So as I was just saying, to address Doug's point, and Doug literally just had a call with me earlier today. He and his partner Nick are new into the program, into DaaS, had their one-on-one call with me. Mark, we just had ours late last week or yesterday. I don't know. My days are all jumbled, but very recently ourselves. So there's always some new people on, and I always like to kick it off with what the objective of these workshops are. As I tell you guys, when it comes to our workshops, I don't really think anybody's best time is spent attending 11 hours worth of workshops a week, and that's how many we run. But I do see the clients that get the best results, show up to the 1 or 2 or 3 per week that are really applicable to what they're working on. Mine specifically is all geared toward selling the data as a service and everything in the front end before we enroll a client, before we actually collect the money. I would say that's kind of where up until collecting the money, even helping collect the money. And the onboarding process, that kind of stuff. But my area of expertise is really in the sales side of things. So I've closed over 10 million in high ticket deals on Zoom in the last few years. I have placed and trained somewhere between 50 and 100 reps into their ideal roles. I have built and managed a minimum of 15 different sales teams. So my whole background and where I spend a lot of my day in multiple businesses is to do with sales. Now, what else I do a lot of is the marketing and the messaging, angles, hooks, organic outreach. Some of you guys may know, depending on how long you've been following me, or if you've checked out my YouTube channel, I started with all organic outreach, DM setting in Facebook groups. I made my first million through grinding and just Facebook outreach before I ever got to, those millions in closed deals on Zoom calls, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of everything to do with the front end of, hey, Ray, what's the best angles and hooks to use? How should I message this? I'm getting this on my sales calls for an objection. How would you overcome this? Right? Any questions and anything to do with that side of the business, that's probably my area of expertise. As I specify on these workshops, and sometimes it may let some people down, when it comes to in-platform and using it in the tech side, that's not where I spend a lot of my time. That's not where I'm great. I've even been one to admit, as a co-owner and a founder of the platform, I'm still one of the slowest, clunkiest guys in-house building audiences. And when I'm doing for any of my private businesses, or I have some family that runs their own businesses where I help them with data, I actually get with 1 or 2 of my best guys, the guys I recommend you speak to, and have them check my audiences before I run them, because they always find something that I miss. They either make it a little larger or higher quality or whatever, or a keyword that I missed that makes a big difference into how the audience performs when we go to put it in the marketing campaign. For instance, an example I think I might have given on a previous workshop, but I have a brother who owns a small little brick and mortar antique sports card collectible trading card picking, that kind of shop. Now he runs a couple events a year where he'll get big name people in there, whether that be athletes for a signing session or maybe a famous actor or actress that's in kind of a movie series with a cult following, Star Wars, Star Trek, things like that, right? Now, when he does those campaigns, he hits up his little brother Ray with a tech and advertising company to get him the data to build into his campaign. So anyway, long story short, last one he ran about a month ago. He gave me about 10 days notice. He was having a woman who was in the Star Wars as well as the Charmed series, movie and television show franchise. I can't even remember her name off the top of my head. She wasn't a super famous actress. Anyway, pulled the data that I thought was best for his audience, for what he was looking for. Had my team, Jaden, really help me execute on the list, embedded it into a small email campaign with, again, somewhere from 7 to 10 days notice. We blasted out campaigns prior to that. And he said somewhere between 30 and 40 people that walked in the door said they came in through the email campaign. So I would consider that successful. 30 or 40 more people walking into somebody's shop that wouldn't have if we had not pulled that data and sent those emails. And again, the only reason I'm telling that whole story is if I didn't have Jaden double check that list, or I didn't build that list well, that email campaign probably would have sent 5 to 10 people tops through the door. It really comes down to how good the list is built. And then, of course, the messaging, which I craft for my brother because I'm good at it. And I think we had killer copy that went in that email as well. But if the data sucked, wasn't accurate, or the list was off, really doesn't matter how good my copy is. It wouldn't have converted above a certain level. And then also to the flip side of that, guys, if I have a killer list, that's awesome and the data is great, but my messaging is shit. I'm not hitting the right inbox. I'm not getting any open rates, and the people that do open don't convert. Then it doesn't even matter how good the data is. So we have to have them both dialed into an extent. And I think everybody knows that, right? You got to have a list, but you also got to have good messaging or good copy or good resources or videos or whatever your objective and you're including in the campaigns there. So I'm going to preface it with, again, that's a bit about my skill set and my area of expertise and what I help with on these calls. Now, I kind of always kick them off with going over some resources that I usually give away every week. I'll go over it super quick because I believe everybody on the call this week has actually seen it and gone through it before, or at least as recently as today, if you're somebody like Doug or Nick or somebody that had kind of just booked on my calendar and is newer, but something I give away on all these calls every week, and I like to make sure everybody has, is the seller resource doc I put together for anybody that is, everybody in DaaS should be looking to close data deals, maybe not immediately, but at some point. And I know some of you people on this call may be in our lower tier incubator program where you're not quite yet have the amount of data to really sell a lot of clients, but you're probably still looking to sell or land your first client. This is, oops, my bad. I'm going to hit chat and I hit share. This is the best document to help you out with all that. And again, if you either haven't seen it or lost it or whatever, I just dropped that here into the Zoom chat. And again, just a document going over the sales process I recommend building out and everything that goes with it. A video tutorial explaining that. A document showing the messaging and angles and hooks and creative and everything that we're doing day in and day out to land data clients. Something I've always said to a lot of you guys, it's both a blessing and a curse, sometimes to a fault, but I'm very unfiltered and very transparent. I find that as a good thing, but it can be net negative if you go too far with that, I guess. And there's a lot of business owners for sure that aren't quite as unfiltered or forthcoming or transparent as me. So take that for what it's worth. But I'm always going to show you exactly what we're doing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys up to date some numbers on what we're doing this month and just be very transparent and let you know what we do as a data company day in and day out. But go through some of our creative and take from it what you can apply to yours, right? I provided scripts and frameworks for the 2 calls that I recommend. We provided, of course, our Canva pitch deck that has nothing branded to Audience Lab. Make your own copy, swap out the first slide with your own branding or imaging, but a perfect little 15 slide pitch deck you can use on sales calls. Understanding pixel pricing in more depth, number 7 on my screen. And then in the description of that video is the link for our pixel calculator tool, which you guys will see me go over in the video. And now you can have and play around with it if you don't already. And then about 20 of my sales call recordings. Listen to some of my verbiage, lingo, cadence. I'd like to think, and I say this a lot, the thing you're going to notice from mine is no 2 calls are the same. And the prospect really feels that on the end of the call, you guys will see if you've watched, and I've already got this feedback from some of you, 1 or 2 of you on this call that have watched and given me feedback. But you'll see stuff like, damn, Ray, this is the best call I've been on. Damn, Ray, this didn't even feel like a sales call. It felt like I was talking to a friend the last 25 minutes. That's when you got it down and it's very organic, right? And that's what we want to come across. We don't want to come across as scripted or robotic or like we're interviewing somebody or interrogating them because we have this framework saying we have to ask these questions. There's a way to do so in a very conversational, non-confrontational, non-invasive way where it just feels like you're having a conversation. And that's what I want you guys to really pick up from kind of my style that you can embed in. Of course, nobody's going to get it overnight, but the more reps and the more you hear somebody that's done it a lot, the more you're going to pick up little things like, oh shit, I can embed that line in, or damn, that's brilliant. I never thought of asking that there, even if it's little subtle things. Sometimes that's all it takes to really make the difference on sales calls. I've noticed that doing a lot of sales training. A lot of people, it's not that they're horrible at sales. And again, I always say there's no right or wrong way to do sales. There's lots of different ways to do it. What I've found is more effective and less effective ways. Sales with less resistance or friction and higher friction. And of course, I'm always going to lead toward the lesser, friction or resistance and the more effective ways. So that's what I try to teach. But where I was going with that before I kind of sidebarred there is a lot of times it's one or two little things that people are missing that they need to put together on a sales call to make it all come together. It's not that they don't know sales. It's not that they're awful at sales. They're just missing one or two little tweaks or approaches or sales philosophies in there that they just no one ever showed them. But once they embed those one or two tweaks make all the difference in turning objections into closed deals and so on and so forth. What I would say those come down to primarily, generally, again, it could be more specific with anybody. It's generally three things. Number one is, are we doing the discovery section of our call right? Are we actually getting the right information without, again, feeling like we're interviewing or interrogating somebody and not in a fucking scripted number 1 through 8 way? How much, 1 through 8 steps, right? How much money do you make? How much would you like to be making? What's been the biggest roadblock? Like, if your call just goes like that over and over again, it's going to come off to the person on the other side of the call as kind of scripted and cheesy and robotic, right? They're going to realize that you do this the exact same way every call. When I think the best sales reps, again, when you go back and watch my calls, no two calls are the same. I can take 8 calls in the same day for the same offer, and I probably have 8 different ways I pitch it, and definitely 8 different total conversations. But the 3 big difference makers is understanding how to run the discovery or the gathering intel stage seamlessly and getting that dialed in, and make sure we're getting the right information we need to ultimately prescribe the right recommendations and suggestions when we go into our pitch. So that's number 1. Number 2 is using tie downs, and number 3 would be using temp checks. Tie downs, the way I utilize these, and I was on a call with a sales rep late last week. I want to say it was Friday morning. I go back and check my calendar, but I want to say it was Friday morning. And I was riding along on the call just as a sales trainer and writing down every little thing I would have done different, how I'm seeing we could improve the calls, the pitch, just anything I could pick up on. And when I get to the end, I have 3 or 4 little things in quotes. These are the tie downs. These are what I take away from a prospect. And again, this wasn't my call, so I had to reiterate and kind of coach the guy up and talk through my point. But this is what I do. These 3 or 4 things that I jot down, those are the things they said where I can tie them down to their own words and pin them back later when they say, I don't know, Ray, I need to think about it, or this doesn't really make sense. It's like one of these tie downs in this case, this guy had said something along the effect of, I just don't have the time to chase these opportunities. And the sales call is for a different offer, not Audience Lab. So I don't want to confuse people here. The call was for a business development program within the federal government sector. Businesses looking to get federal grants and contracts. And the company that was selling has the expertise and does the business development plan, consulting proposals, like everything that goes into it, right? So that's just a quick little synopsis. But the guy had said, once I don't have time to chase these jobs, or I don't have time to chase this business. Yes, it's a priority. I don't have the time to chase it. He later said it's a bandwidth thing. Then he talked about how his 2 partners, one was away at a race and the other one was at some event with the daughter. So I'm the only one working today. So he kept like diving into these pain points about how he doesn't have the time, how he doesn't have the bandwidth, how he doesn't have the people. Even when he does have the people, he's the only one effing working. So like later on, when we get down to the crux of it and we get to the pitch, this guy's name was Sean, this is what I would have said that this guy didn't do. I would have said, hey, Sean, before we get into everything, is it safe to say that what you told me earlier is still kind of a pressing issue, your bandwidth, you don't have the time to chase these opportunities, but getting into the federal sector and landing more of this business is a priority? Are all those things still true, Sean? And wait for him to sit there and say it, right? It came out of his mouth. So I'm just taking what he said and reiterating it later and making sure this is all a priority and just emphasizing it that it's number one on his radar right before I get into pitch, right? These were the problems. Yes, Ray, it's still definitely a priority to get into this government sector and land some of these deals, but I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Now it came out of his mouth, so I don't have to necessarily rehash and say, Sean, you said all this. I just ask him, is that agreeable? Would you agree that, this is all accurate? Yes, Ray, I would. And yes, Ray, it's still a priority. Great. Is it cool if I show you how we helped dozens of other business owners like you, Sean, with that bandwidth problem, help them land this business, chased it for them, wrote the proposals, and ultimately partnered with them so they were landing millions and millions of government deals. Is it cool if I show you how we do that for businesses? Yeah, right. Awesome. Then I go right in my pitch with permission, but I led right in with a tie down. So after I pitch and everything's hunky dory and I laid it all out there, I go back to him, and before I haven't even said price yet, but hey, Sean, a scale of say 1 to 10, right? 1, Ray, you're ugly, let's hang up now. 10, I need the system embedded in my business like yesterday. Where do you fall on that end of the spectrum, right? So that's my temp check. If they give me an 8 or higher there, again, I pretty much know that I can go into an assumptive close, okay? 8 or higher, and again, I look at this a couple different ways. If I get lower than an 8, I don't go into price until I get them up to an 8. Right? Meaning, hey, Ray, I'm a 7 out of 10. All right, Sean, you're a 7 out of 10. So that tells me a couple things. You clearly see some value in what we do, and I explained it pretty clearly. Is that safe to say? Yeah, Ray, it is. Well, tell me, Sean, why are you a 7? Why aren't you a 5? Right? And why do I ask that question? I want him talking about what he liked about the program and the value he saw. So I start with that, right? So he starts, well, Ray, you're a 7 out of 5 because I really love the done for you aspect. And I really love your guys' research and how you break down all the opportunities that I don't think my team was able to find. Great. So let me ask you on the flip side of that, Sean, what was not mentioned there, or what don't we provide that would have had you closer to an 8 or a 9 or a 10 that you feel like is missing? And why'd you give us a 7? Well, Ray, you talked about the research, you talked about the proposal writing, but what I didn't see in there was the ongoing training on how my team can find the opportunities that are outside of public bid. Oh, I didn't have time to dive into that. We actually run 1 workshop a week, and we do free trainings for all of our private clients on exactly how to land those. By the way, Sean, those opportunities outside of the public network were called simplified acquisitions. Is that what you were referring to? Yeah, Ray, it is. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Yeah, we give you access to that, and you get access to mastermind trainings for your team or yourself on how to execute that. So now that we're clear and we actually offer that, where are you on that scale of 1 through 10? Oh, well, since you offer that and the masterclass and the trainings for my team, yeah, I'm probably closer to a 9 or a 10. 9 out of 10 now, Ray. Okay, great. What I found, and the reason I said that, guys, what I found is almost every time I pitch something, whether it be Audience Lab, whether it's business development, whether it's my sales coaching and services, doesn't really matter. I never can say, and I never really try to say everything that we do. I really try to emphasize whatever's in my program or my offer or my deliverables that's going to solve problem 1 and 2 for them based on our conversation. That's what I'm emphasizing in my pitch. Yes, I try to gloss over and highlight everything we do very quickly, but I don't spend much time on when I always like to customize my pitch based on what I found out in my conversation and what they're looking for. And then I can pretty much pinpoint, all right, for this guy, it's going to be in-market audiences and the reactivation in Facebook ads. Like that's what I really got to highlight for this guy, right? The next guy, it might be identity resolution and retargeting via SMS because all of his outreach is done via Twilio outreach in GHL via SMS, right? Things like that. So again, I'm going to customize that. And I usually don't cover everything. And why I say that is usually when I ask, hey, Sean, so what was missing or what didn't I offer that would have had you closer to a 9 or a 10? Usually they say something that I actually offer or we do. I just didn't really have the time to highlight it. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, we do that or we give you that. So now where are you on that spectrum? Oh, well, now that we're clear that you do that, yeah, I am a 9, man. And when I get a 9 out of 10, that's where I go into an assumptive close. I just assume the close. All right, so you're a 9 out of 10, Sean. That's great. So the only thing left is to get you onboarded and rocking and rolling. And the best part is we accept both Visa and our credit and debit. It's only $4,500 to get started today, which works better for you. So I go in and assume the sale, and you guys would be surprised at how many times people just pull out their credit card and start reading it. Right, it's MasterCard 1464, and they just start reading it, right? So is that going to be what happens most common? No, that most common, I still get an objection there, and that's what I'm trying to get. But once they're a 9 out of 10, and once that they basically told me, yes, if I had your solution, I could reach X result, whatever that is. And again, that was the other thing I was getting to with tie down that I didn't necessarily leverage. I leveraged the personal pain points, not always personal, but the pain points that I take away from conversations. I also leverage, hey, Sean, if you had X, do you think you could achieve Y? And I always tie it down to that one thing, which is always going to be different. So let's put it in the context of our data solution. Hey, Sean, if I gave you winning pre-made in-market custom audiences to loop in your ad campaigns, do you totally believe you could drop your cost per lead and acquisition? Yeah, Ray, I believe if I had those, I could achieve that, right? Just that one thing, whatever it is. Hey, if you had an extra 30 leads on your books, do you think you could close an extra 10K in business? Yes, Ray, I could. Okay, that's the one thing. So there's always one of those for a client. What's the big thing they need? And if they have that, could they achieve desired result or outcome? And I usually hone that back in right before I get into it. And if we're all on the same page, I go into assumptive pitch. Usually they're either going to open up their credit card. I mean, open up their wallet, pull out their credit card, or say, hey, Ray, give me a sec. I got to go grab my card. Or they're going to say, well, I need to think about it, or give you an objection there, right? And that's where we can get into the overcoming objections, which you guys will see in the sales, in number 5 on my screen. When you open this up, the whole thing, and I'll do it really quickly just to show you guys, you're going to see down below that the overcoming objection framework and even the verbiage of actual calls is broken down in here for each main objection you're going to see. So basically, once we get to objections, let's say we get the partner or spouse objection, right? What's highlighted there on my screen. Here's the exact call flow and how it went. This is what the prospect said. This is what I said. We broke down call transcripts of our best closes on all of these objections. Hey, Ray, now's not the right timing for me. Boom. This is how we did it. Hey, I'm already in another program, or I was burned by another program in the past. Boom. This is how we overcame it. I need to think about it. Or in my mind, that just says, I don't trust you. That's really what that objection means. I need to think about it, because if we've done the call right and they said, yeah, Ray, if I had your software, your audiences, I could get lower cost per lead and acquisition. And then we get to the end and we drop price and they're like, I need to think about it. I always put it back on them. So, Sean, what's there really to think about? You just told me if you had this embedded in your business, you're 99% confident you can get lower costs and increase your ad profitability. So tell me, what are you really thinking about? And then I just sit back and shut up and wait for him to come up with it, because I need to think about it. It's usually a kind of, I don't trust you. And it's a brush off thing. It's similar to send me a proposal. That's kind of an F off usually. How many proposals have we sent on sales calls that never got anybody to reply back, that never got a credit card, that never closed a deal? Yeah. But how many of us sent it out thinking, oh my God, this guy's eager to get it and they're going to sign it, right? Or they're going to be paying within the next, 7 days, whatever it is. So again, I break these down and kind of look at them, for what they are. Now, the one objection we want to always drive it down to, and hopefully it's not an objection, but if it is, the one factor we want to always drive it down to is price. That's why I always word it like this. Hey, Sean, if we can make it make sense and the finances line up today, would there be anything that would stop you from investing to further your business? So again, as long as everything else lines up and the price can work, and I always want to get it down to pricing, guys, we can always make the price make sense. What do we have? Do we do a downsell on a lower package? Do we split it up and split his larger lump sum into 3 payments? Do we offer financing or credit options? There's always a way to do it. Do we want to get that? Do we want to do that internally? I don't know. Everybody's different. My point is, there's always a way to help people if we can just make the finances make sense, right? And I've done that in my business by a number of ways. If you guys came in the audience lab, and some of you guys did, some of you guys know this. If you talked to us 14 months ago, would you have found a 497 or a 997 tier data program? Hell no. But through time, we've been able to offer more downsells, make it more affordable, branch out and make more products, more prices, and open up to more market share as a byproduct of doing that. Early on, when we only had high ticket tiers, even when we offered payment options, we offered finance options. So I always put everything in our reps arsenal to give them the best chance of success, right? And there's a million different ways we could talk about that. But anyway, so that's everything included into the main overall, seller's resource doc that I talked about, with all your scripts, my call recordings, and everything there. One other thing I want to cover, and I want to give you guys today, that I don't know if I've ever brought these up on a workshop. It was only once. These are usually something I do in my sales lab trainings and with more of my sales lab clients. But being that these are sales workshops, a lot of that bleeds over into this. So something I've found real powerful, and I don't know how many of you guys are actively having conversations and taking sales calls. I'm hoping it's above 50% of you guys. I mean, I would hope it was all of you guys, but I know that's not realistic. I know not everybody's on sales calls regularly. I don't know. Maybe it's not that realistic, because I know we're on sales calls every damn day and it can be done, but I get it, right? Not everybody is, but I'm hoping quite a few of you are. And I offer in something, one of the best things I do to level up reps is doing call audits, whether I'm writing them live or whether I listen to a replay. I both know in my sales training development and, being a sales trainer and a coach for others, this is one of the best ways that made me better. Having somebody that wasn't on the call, somebody that's not coming from my perspective, and somebody else that's got different, sales background, listen to my call from a 30,000-foot overview the next day, not with no, nothing built into it, no bias, no reliance on the commission or anything. I got some of the best coaching and the best insight ever. And sometimes it would even be me self-auditing my calls. I would listen back and be like, damn, I said that. I didn't think I said that on sales calls, but the data doesn't lie. I obviously said it. I'm listening to it, right? So audits are great. I like to teach people the self-audit frameworks. You can go in and do this yourself, because I know we don't all have a sales trainer in our network, someone we can trust, or somebody that's going to take the time to do this right. So it's very good if you could learn how to do this yourself. So this is what I've always done. And again, I'm going to explain this, and then I'll go drop the template down below when you guys get it. Every time you do this, you want to make a separate copy and do this separate for each call. That's first and foremost. So as I say at the top, be sure to click file, then make copy before each and every audit. And then you're going to want to enter this, right? So let's just go through and do it super quick. Name of the closer, that would be Ray Langdon, right? Name of prospect. Let's just say we had Joe Smith, right? Date of call. We would put, oh, hold on, somebody else in the waiting room. Let me just submit them in. There we go. 7:15, whatever. I would fill this out in depth. Outcome of call. Was it a close? Did it set to a second call? Did I get a no sale and no chance of another call? If so, what was the objection, right? So we want to fill this in. Again, I want to blank these out so the template doesn't have all this extra jargon in there when you guys download it later. But we want to fill this in for each call. Very, very basic information there. And the link to Loom is simply this. Once I'm going to go back and self-audit my call, I'm going to make myself a quick little Loom video of the outtakes, right? So if I'm to audit a different sales rep's call, and let's just say I watched a 45-minute call, I have a scrap paper here with a bunch of notes on it from the call. Then what I'm going to do is make a Loom video saying, hey, Joe, at 4 minutes and 50 seconds in, you did this. I would have done, so I'm going to make a Loom video going over it. I'm going to drop the link to the Loom right there just by itself. And down below is going to be all the timestamps. And again, I go back and do this myself. So I'm going to timestamp everything that really stood out to me. And then I'm going to go back and color coordinate that into what I did well, what I could have done better, or urgent area of improvement. Generally, if I'm highlighting something and a timestamp and really I'm emphasizing and pulling it out, it falls into one of these categories almost every time. There could be an outlier where like it was something that the client said and it was a quote you wanted to outtake. Sure, but you guys know what I mean. Generally speaking, with these timestamps that we're clipping out of a call audit, there's going to be something we could have done better. We crushed it and we did to the top of our game, or it was an urgent area of improvement and I was absolutely horrible. So once I go through this call, I audited, hey, Joe, at 5 minutes and 35 seconds, should have dove deeper to figure out why he's searching for this solution. He talked about it briefly. You had a great time to have a follow-up question and have him go in deep rather than getting symptom or service level information. Let's get the real or the root level information by asking a follow-up question and a layer deeper, right? So 6:35 should have shown more of a reaction to his when he said hundreds of appointments and only 2 to 3 deals closed. That's massive. We're offering sales training with this offer on this particular call, guys. And this guy's saying he's got hundreds of appointments, but 2 to 3 closed deals. That means you're closing at best 2 to 3%. That's at just 100 deals. He said hundreds. So now it might be 1.5 to 2%. That's a huge gap. We could show them. So that's something from a sales rep. When you get that, you should react to that and let them know that's kind of unacceptable. And you're leaving a lot of revenue on the table if you're only closing 2 out of 3 or 2 or 3 from hundreds of appointments, right? At about 8:15, could have tightened up my questions and make them more substantive and rational to the actual discussion. So I realized that he just kind of went off path with this and was asking questions that weren't really relevant or substantive to what was being given to us in the conversation, so on and so forth. So let's say we go down and break those all down, and we should have a handful of timestamps that we map out. And the one thing I always tell people, and you don't even have to enter much in these sections, all of the areas below, what I tell people to go through, just put a check mark next to if we're hitting these. So when I'm first getting good at sales, the first thing I want to get good at is, am I going through the whole framework and outline in the right sequential order, right? So did I open the call and do a good little intro? Did I assess the situation? This is where we talk about the discovery or the gathering intel. Did I dig into the pain points or problems? Meaning, did I get past the surface level problem and get into the root or the real problems, right? Did I have to dive into the impact of that problem? Is it impacting him professionally, personally? What's that having an impact in his life? Discussing solutions. Impact of solutions real when relevant, consequence of inaction, and the temp check and the timestamp, the temp check. Like after I've pitched, did I actually go through and do my little line? Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, yada, yada, yada. So let's just make sure we're at least doing these 8 things in the right order. And then the focus is getting better and better at each one and going into each section kind of individually and breaking down and kind of grading yourself. But the first thing to judge yourself on as a sales call is, did I at least stick to the structure and did I hit all the categories or phases in my framework? Okay. So anyway, quick little document. This could be much more in depth, but I kept it simple for a reason. Simple is easier to grasp and easier to execute, and more people will do it. And that's just human nature. I've learned working with over 3,000 clients in a number of businesses, the more complexities that go into it, the less people are going to execute. And that's 100% true, human nature as a whole. So let me go drop the link to that template for anybody that's taking their own calls or wants to, train a team member. And what I'll do is, I didn't put it in there yet because I kind of send this to reps individually, but I also shot a little training on how to best utilize this form. So I'll go include that at the top of it after this call. I'll go drop the video in there so you guys have it in case you're sending it to a team member or want to explain it to somebody else. I'll have a little tutorial just kind of going over what I just did, but it's just a quick little 5-minute explainer video. So I'll go attach that to the top of it after this. But yeah, last thing before I kick it back to you guys for questions and open this up and make it more collaborative is, I just said a minute ago, I wanted to share some of what we're doing in real time. The same way I share with you our creative, our messaging, our best converting email campaigns. Let's show you on the back end what we're doing day in and day out within our business. So I'm going to go into my private company Slack account here, Slack. And one new message, which means my team even closed another deal in the last 10-15 minutes while I've since I last brought this up on my screen, which is great. But you can see end of day, today's the 15th, so the last end of day report I'm going to have in my reporting is the 14th. This day we didn't have a particularly great day, but we did add another 2K in MRR to the platform. There's no lost MRR, no canceled revenue. All in all, it's not a bad day. It's under our KPI, but for the month, this is kind of where we're at. And again, what I'm showing you in this channel, as you can see at the top, it's titled Closed Deals and Cash Collected. This is all new revenue just from the current ads and marketing we're running. This has nothing to do with existing clients already on the platform, the existing monthly revenue, or the billing we already have. This is just new revenue just coming in from our new acquisition channels, which is primarily ads. But I've told you guys, and I know a couple of you guys are new, we internally excel at and do 4 avenues of client acquisition for our own business. We use paid ads. We use cold email, we use mutually beneficial partnerships, MBPs, and we use organic and cold outreach, what I call DM setting. So that's how I got my start. As I mentioned, I actually run a program in my PDOX brand called DM Setter Academy, where I've done thousands, if not hundreds, if not thousands of hours and reps trained on organic outreach and DM setters. So I don't actually manually do much of it anymore. I do what comes to me. I still love organic. It's how I got my start. So even though I don't do it, I kind of do it just on my playtime because I enjoy it. But most of it is I have setters out there starting conversations and sending people into our ecosystem now. I'm not doing it near as hands-on I was when I started my company, just to be very transparent. But July, only 14 days in. Think about it, guys. We've already had 2 weekends, one of which was being a holiday weekend where people usually took an extra day before or after. So it should be a slow month. Actually, we are on pace right now, 14 days in. We're on pace for our biggest month in 2025 in new cash collected. I think our biggest month in 2025 has only been 101,000. You could simply double this number right now and know that that is well over 101,000. So the current pace we're on this month is on pace for our best month of the year. Where I've talked to, I'm tied in with quite a few other large business owners and people that do, 100,000s in new revenue each month. And a couple of them were telling me they're off to a pretty slow start this July. And that was their reasoning. There's been a couple of weekends. There was a holiday weekend. There's been less business days. And I agree. So I was kind of shocked to see that we're ahead of pace this month. This is a pleasant sight, but yeah, just great to see. So you can see for the month, we've collected 61,000 in new cash collected, 50,000 in new MRR, which simply means out of that 61K, 50,308 are already on the books to be billed the next fiscal month in August in this case. So 61,000 was collected in July. 50,300 is already on the books for next month and already being invoiced, and the following month and the following month. So that's just a little overview there. Let's see if I was right. Yes, a new deal did just come in. I usually don't like to show people's information, but you guys are all paying clients. I just wanted to see the time. Yeah, 3:06. This thing started at 3 p.m. So exactly, even a new deal closed, and we brought in another 1,697 collected, 1,697 in MRR while I was on this call. Another channel that's just very, very relevant to everything I'm talking about and leading to these numbers is our call booking. So this just shows every call that's booking through our paid ads that we're running. We spend, approximately 45, maybe 50K a month on our own ads internally at Audience Lab. And you can kind of see, again, I didn't refresh this. I'm still back at Monday, July 7th. But what I'm kind of showing you is I scroll down, 7:34, call booked, 8:15, call booked, 8:40, call booked. Like these things, 10:25, call booked. Like we get 20 on average per day, new call bookings. For some reason, my stupid automation and my end of day reporting is not congruent in this channel, and it populates when it wants, and it's screwed up, and my team's still working on it. So I don't get as accurate EOD day reports as I do in my cash collected channel. I actually go in and manually count these up some days because I am a stickler for my numbers, and my automation sucks in this channel till my team fixes it. But again, all I was just scrolling through and all that, I started on the 7th. I'm still only on July 9th. And you can see we just have appointments 6:50, 9 p.m. So even 3 hours is probably a long drought for us to go without a booking. And this is just primarily through our paid ads. I think the only other thing, if anything else is incorporated in here, and I'd have to double check, might be our nurture sequence reactivation emails, meaning somebody did book with us or booked on our call and no-showed. So to get them back in, that might also be populating in here. I would have to double check. But either way, that's still volume from ads. We just never got them to show up. They no-showed or rescheduled or whatever. So yeah, I mean, just showing you guys, day in and day out, our team is closing deals from all the paid campaigns that we're running and through the cold email outreach or the reactivation outreach and campaigns that we're running. And again, being very transparent, we have a little over 500,000 on the books in monthly MRR. And on average, the sales team is adding about 100K per month, as you can see in new revenue through that channel I just showed you guys. That's kind of where we're at as a company and what we're seeing month in and month out. So just wanted to share some of those frameworks, some of those resources, and some of those results. And now I'd like to kick it to you guys for any questions, anything you'd like me to cover further. Why don't you just drop a 1 in the chat if you have anything, any takeaways from this, feedback, anything you're going to implement, or anything you'd like me to call on you. Just drop a 1 in the chat. That way we don't have 2 or 3 people speaking at once, and I'll just call on you individually. If nobody has feedback or comments or questions, we may just end this workshop early because I didn't prepare a super in-depth sales lesson to go much more. I just wanted to cover some of these stuff and kind of open this one up and make it more collaborative. I know we have a few less people than normal on here. I think we normally get maybe 5 or 6 more, but we'll kick it back one more time. Anybody drop a 1 in the chat if they have anything that they would like to unmute and ask, chime in, give me feedback, and or anything that they're going to implement. Doug, you are my man so far this session. Feel free. Somebody else talk other than me. I do too much of it.
So I just love to hear your thoughts around the management of our, 15, audiences, right?
Sure.
Because like I said, I'm a math guy, and I go, how can you maximize each one of those? What's the thoughts around that?
Yeah, sure. This is my thoughts, and this is what I've seen, especially working with the brands more specifically, rather than me selling to you, the agencies, but more from your standpoint. The average customer I work with, on average, gets about 2 lists per month that they buy from me. So that's how I kind of think about it. If I have 15 lists, my average client's going to need 2 per month. I have enough data to serve about 7 clients per month. That's where that's kind of how my mind starts. My larger clients, people spending, 50K north on ad spend, more larger Fortune 500 type companies might go more toward like 4 lists a month. But my average company spending anywhere between 2,500 and 10K per month, I would say is the basic companies that I tend to work with in a DaaS agency, about 2 lists per month. So that should kind of tell you the capacity. Now, in terms of like utilizing the super pixels, I only really want to use those when I know I'm dealing with clients that are spending quite a bit in traffic, which means they're sending, spending quite a bit in spend, which means they're likely sending traffic somewhere, or they have an existing, existing established site that's getting some significant traffic every month. So the pixels, I'm going to use more selectively for larger clients and more whales, especially when I only have a couple. I want large volume for it to make sense and for it to be worthwhile.
Interesting.
Gotcha. And so what's your thought going back to the, I got a client, I'm pulling lists twice. So does that, yeah, so, all right, that's good. I'm a bit
Okay.
spun around.
Okay, that happens. You know how much information you've consumed in the last 2 hours today? I mean, hell, I get it.
Now, are these 2 documents that you posted different than what I've got? Or are they the same?
One that I dropped in there is different. You've received the top one. The bottom one, I haven't shared with before. That's just a self-audit framework for any reps that are currently taking sales calls. That you did not
Cool.
have
Yeah,
prior to today.
Yeah, cool. All right. Awesome, man. Well, I'm good.
Awesome.
great.
Hey, Nathan, thank you for the note in there. Book your first discovery call using organic outreach. I'd love to hear it, man. That's how I got my start. That's how I recommend a lot of you guys do it. I've always said over and over again, whether you came in an incubator or DaaS, and again, my content and what I teach with sales is more geared to the DaaS side of things, people with enough data to serve a few clients at least. But as I've always said, I got my start, and this is what I recommend: doing some organic outreach, landing your first few paying clients, and then start to invest in your own paid campaigns out of profit rather than out of pocket. So I've seen, and I don't know, I'm curious if you want to drop in below that, Nathan, what platform or avenue you use. Was that LinkedIn? Was it cold email? Was it Facebook? Kind of curious there, but I've always found the best combination, especially in the more B2B and for the data stuff specifically, as on LinkedIn and cold email. Whether you're doing one of those or a combination of the two, that's where I've seen the most success and the best results in terms of booking organic appointments. Again, you did that one on Facebook. Good. Facebook is where really my expertise, and that's where I've done a bulk of my damage. But again, going more from my audience lab DaaS clients, I've seen them do the best on LinkedIn and cold email specifically. Mike, you had a question? Go ahead. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, go Sox here, Raymond.
Thank you.
I'm in the Boston area too.
I'm in a row, my man.
All right. Question is it better to target large ad spenders, or is there a good audience for people that are doing more email outreach? Like what's the best, the client that's going to give you the biggest average order size?
Gotcha. The biggest average order size and quickest and best results would be bigger ad spenders and people that are gonna use the data primarily in ad campaigns. So that's the short answer to your question. Now, are there clients that get great results with email campaigns? Yes. My clients that get the best results are taking the data and running it simultaneously in ads and email campaigns that kind of complement one another, right? So does that answer your question, Mike? Should I go in more depth?
Yeah, no, I had a client that I was wanted to use it for phone calls. They're
Phone
more
calls.
of a outbound calling operation. They didn't have great success, so I don't, but I wanted to kind of lean into that niche. This guy was a seller of gold coins, and the audience I built was pretty big, so
Interesting.
with the intent in that gold area. So I want to lean into that niche, but so I just wanted to try to figure out, okay, are they gonna use this? I have to go out and acquire the clients, but I got to figure out, are they going to use this for paid ads or
Yeah, and that's a good
or
question. So
working-
I've seen some success in the gold and precious metals niche. I've actually seen some very good lists. I would actually go for, you said it was a pretty big list. What I've noticed with my clients that have had success, they've gone with actually smaller, higher quality lists. So just higher targeting the actual buyer and the direct the direct, perfect, ideal client for that avatar, rather than going a little general with maybe gold or gold collector or coin collecting. Maybe it's something much more specific with 16-ounce gold or whatever it is. But you might want to go smaller with those audiences and just try to go higher quality. But regardless, whether it's large or quality, I mean, you can kind of get a blend of the two. You can gear toward one or the other. And Jaden on my team is very good at helping you kind of decipher how you should do that. But regardless, with the precious metals, I've seen it perform best in paid ads as well. The people that have taken those audience and run to ads have gotten a lot of bookings and a lot of website traffic, which ultimately led to conversations or calls or somebody going into their shop or whatever it was.
And what's the best way to find the big spenders on ads?
I mean,
Just manual research, or is there any other channels?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways you could do it. There's lots of ways you could do it. I mean, I just go look through, you can look through the Facebook ad library and you can see who's got the most ad sets in a particular niche or industry. That's usually a good indicator. You can't always see what somebody's spend is, but you can see the amount of impressions and how long they've had campaigns running, which can give you a pretty good indicator to how healthy their ad budget is. So you can use the Facebook ad manager. There's AI algorithms that can search and tell you the companies and industries that are spending the most on ads and the most paid dollars. You could just look up who are the category kings, the top 5 revenue grossing companies in any niche or industry, and almost always they correlate to the top 10 revenue spending companies. So there's a few different ways you can go about it, but that's a few of them right there.
Okay, thanks.
And again, just generally for anybody else listening and to expound from Mike, this is what I would say, and I think I said this on a call earlier with Doug and Nick, if I'm not mistaken. But again, this is the way that the data performs best across all of my clients that are pulling the data out and reactivating the campaigns. Again, there's always going to be outliers where certain ones might perform better than others. But again, generally speaking, it's going to perform best in the ads, second email, third by SMS, and fourth by cold calling. So there are outliers where cold calling will outperform the other and vice versa. And that's just because of that specific niche or industry and how that business was built out to their current sales process, right? If that's what they do, that's probably going to work best for them. But again, the data is really built and it's going to perform best in ad campaigns. We can get it in front of more people. We can get it tested with our messaging in front of more people. There's a lot less compliance restrictions. There's just all kinds of reasons why it performs best in ads. But it will perform in all of those. It just depends on how good you built the list. Great. And one of your centers booked. Hey, that's even better, Nathan. I'm hoping, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I actually sent you some DM centered training materials. I'm guessing that they're using some of the stuff I've given you in terms of my style and kind of my approach, which I'm hoping, because that would make sense why they're having success on Facebook, which is where all my videos are shot and all my stuff. Yeah, awesome. So they did it through my videos and my DM center stuff. That's great to see, man. Steven, you had your hand raised on here. You have a question? Please go ahead.
Hey, yeah. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I had a client and who was actually more of like someone that I was, we were doing work back and forth, and he has a client that he wants to put me in front of, but as a test wanted to see like the results of the data and see if we could make it work. What would you recommend in a situation like that? Like I just built a list. They were in the kind of like drop shipping supplement category. So pulled a bunch of keywords, based it off of like CEO and every other kind of like manager kind of title, and found about 100,000 people. So I wanted to give him some of the data, but not everything. Is that like a good place to start? Like, what would you do?
That is a place to start. I actually get asked this question at least once a week from one of you guys, whether it's on this workshop or in a DM. And I think I shot a couple of videos on it, but either way, very happy to address. And it's a great question, really. So this is how I do that. Hey, Ray. I'm all excited about it. This sounds great, but I really just want to test out the data and make sure it's going to work before I sign any packages or any kind of agreement. All right, Stephen, I totally hear where you're coming from. And what I would like to do is I would love to prove exactly what I'm saying and prove how accurate and how good my data is. So let's do this. I'm going to build you your initial list, and I'm only going to charge you a one-time $500 setup fee, which is actually less than I charge per list that I sell to my clients a la carte. I'm going to let you test out this first list and go embed it into your marketing, whether you're running ads, email, SMS. We're going to let you run with it, see the results you've gotten, and after a couple of weeks, let's meet up, let's discuss, and if you want to buy future lists, we can work on a package and a program there. Is that at least fair?
Cool.
It's exactly how I would approach it. I had somebody ask me this earlier this week and like, hey man, I got this large list. I just want to give them a sample size of 10. Can I do that for free? I would never do that. If you are just relinquishing your proof of concept to a sample size of 10 profiles, that is so little, it's never going to prove anything in any industry. I don't care if all 10 people answer their phone and buy shit. Sure, it would blow them away, but that's still such a small sample size that whether it was positive or odds are in 10 leads only, it's going to be negative. You're going to get 10 no answers or no replies, right? It's such a small sample size. I never want to give sample size for free and say, go test it and come back to me. I will give it to you at a discounted rate and no obligation to move forward and try it. And then let's discuss compensation from there if the data actually does what I say. Is that fair, Stephen? And at least get something for your hard costs in pulling that list.
Gotcha. And is there a minimum then that you would give in those circumstances, like
a great
500 people, 1,000 people?
Probably not, but I always try to do this within the client's bandwidth. So I always ask a business owner, and dude, this is such a different answer from every industry and niche I speak to. But Stephen, in a perfect world, how many leads can your team handle a month and actually reach out to? That's probably what I'm going to set that list for. If it's way bigger, I'm only going to give him a portion. If he tells me, hey, we have the bandwidth to reach out to 1,000 people, that's probably what I want to give him in a sample list.
Cool.
Because
Cool.
think
Makes a
about
lot
it.
of
I was
sense.
saying this earlier. Think about it. Let's just say this guy says, I have the bandwidth for 1,000 leads and we give them 10,000. Okay. If he can reach 1,000 a month, how long is it going to take him? How many months to reach out to everybody on that list? 10 months, correct?
Right.
And if he's got a list that's going to supply him for 10 months, is he going to come back and buy one from you every couple of weeks?
Right.
And do you think by the time he gets to month 2 or 3 of that list, it's going to be all outdated stuff and people already found solutions? So now the data's not even good anymore.
Right.
So there's all kinds of reasons I always build lists within the prerequisites that this client is looking for. I gave a great example. Again, I think it was on with Doug and Nick earlier. Gave a great example. This woman, Tina, who enrolled with us probably about 2 years ago now. She runs a company called thecreditbureau.com. Her big thing was credit repair, right? That's her services. So initially she comes to me, Ray, I want everybody in the US that's typed credit repair as a keyword in the last 90 days. I build that list. It's about 510,000 people, Stephen. I go back to Tina. How many leads can your team actually reach out to a month? Oh, about 10,000, Ray. Do you think I gave her the list of 500,000? No, I segmented it down in little 10,000 increments, sold it to her. She came back and bought one a couple weeks later, came back and bought one a couple weeks later. And then I would keep refreshing it to make sure I was giving her updated data rather than old faded data, which is going to happen if they buy one bulk list, but they can't get to everybody. So there's all kinds of ways you shoot yourself in the foot by doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that came up with another client who wanted to do the same thing. I made the mistake though, which you just clarified. I gave him like a sample set of 10 people because he was going to call them because he wasn't ready for the whole cold email and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, here's these very specific people looking for your very specific product. So I gave him a list and he hasn't called it. We met up. It's been 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, I at least had enough knowledge to be like, oh, you don't want to use that list anymore because it's stale data. He's like, oh, okay. I'm glad you said that, so it is kind of nice in the sense of I think it's important for all of us, on the call trying to sell this product that we advise our clients that like, hey, like this isn't just a list that you go and you keep for a month. This is something that we're working together. We're building this, we're finding high intent data, and that intent is based off of people who are looking for that information now, not 2 weeks from now.
Exactly. And which is why with Doug's question earlier, he was just like, hey, from the math standpoint, I have access to 15 lists. And I was like, well, on average, my client buys about 2 lists per month. That's because each 15 days, I want to be feeding them fresh data. Hey, you called this list or you put it in your ads for the last 2 weeks. Let's build you a new one for the second last 2 weeks of the month, right? Which is usually why I go with 2 lists a month. The average company can afford it. And it's always giving them fresh data throughout the whole month to run their ads, emails, whatever to.
Gotcha.
So that's why that number works really well.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Oh, I was going to say, when you have that list, like I heard someone, or last week you had mentioned that like you'll do like $1 a lead, but that's usually like after things are kind of proven, right? Like what if I'm trying to like let's say I give someone a list of 1,000, like it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or 500, I still charge like $500 for that
so
effort.
the big difference between the two is I was talking about for reactivation pixel leads. Those are people that visited the website. They're guaranteed to be warmer. They know about the brand. That's a little different. I just don't sell it per lead off in-market audiences. I don't do it that way.
Okay, got it.
I just sell it straight list. And again, I'll make the list smaller if I know it's too many for them, right? You know what I mean? I would just make the list a less size, but I just charge per list if I'm doing in-market audience. I don't charge per lead.
And if they
I've never done it
wanted,
that way.
and if they wanted that full list, how much would be the ideal? Like 1,500 for the list?
Again, bare minimum, I would never charge, and I would never advise you guys to charge less than $750 a list. $750
$750.
flat bare minimum. If you
Got it.
know you can charge more and you think you can, and I know you guys can, I wouldn't advise against it, but I would just never go below $750 per list.
Cool.
What's your average list, average on that?
Probably about
Yes.
1,250 to 1,500 would somewhere in that ballpark would be average. And again,
So if
this
you're-
isn't. Sorry, go ahead.
So if you're doing 2 lists a month, it's $3,000 a month?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, certainly could be. Yep. Yeah, I have Garrett who charges 2,000 per list to private injury attorneys. They're buying 4 off him a month, so that's 8,000 right there. He charges 2,000 per list. They're buying 4 a month. There's no discount. There's no 100%. And that industry, every list has sent them at least one closed case, which is worth 60 grand to them. So for every list they're paying 2K, they're making 60 on the back end. Are they going to say no?
Right.
He actually get what Garrett said on that last workshop. If any of you guys were on, it's a couple months ago when he was on. He goes, Ray, I think I shot myself in the foot at that price, 2,000 a list. Now I lock myself in because they're expecting to pay it, but I know they're making 60K off every list, right? So I mean, he probably could have charged double or triple that even, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know. It's still a great markup and a great price, 2,000 a list, and I think that's probably standard if I'm going into like the private injury attorney. 2,000 is probably my bare minimum where I'm starting. I just said 750. That's universal. If I'm working with anybody, I'm not charging less than 750 per list. Certain industries, it definitely goes up from there. So Nathan, that's always going to vary. I cannot answer that question simply because how many records does a list contain? Well, does your client work with people nationwide or locally? That's going to be a huge difference. Do they want 5 keywords or 1 keyword in the intent? Like everything is going to be such a variable. I can never say how many. I can tell you, generally speaking, if we're working with somebody that wants national data, say e-com, right? Doesn't matter. They're not, geographically restricted to who they work with. We're probably going to get close to 500,000 on most lists if we're pulling consumer data. That's what I can say. If we're pulling B2B data, you're going to have anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 records on average. But again, there's so many contingencies that can make that less or more. I can never answer that on such a basic general question. It's just stupid for me to try to do. Hopefully that helps you. I mean, I just can't go much in more depth if you didn't tell me. But what I do is I sit with a business owner and I find out those parameters, right? Hey, Nathan, do you work with people nationally? Or are you just, state, globe restrictions, zip codes? Tell me about who you can work with, right? So I already know based on their geographical parameters, that gives me a good gauge for audience size. And then I want to know, then I want to gear it based on intent. Okay, so I know you're looking for people just in the state of Texas. Now, tell me, are you looking for people who own homes, people that are, more on the better off middle to upper class and people with a good credit score? Or do you work with, lower income and less affluent neighborhoods? So now I can segment by the financial and credit score parameters to make sure I'm only getting his ideal audience. So we can dial that in. The question you asked was very good. How many records does each have? But as I always ask a business owner, do you want a ton of data or do you just want good data? Do you want good buyers or do you want a lot? Right? And most of them just want good data, right? So they don't necessarily care about how many. They care about how many are actually going to be people that will book a call, that will answer, and that will buy their shit, right? So I try to always gear my list and my expectation with my clients more toward quality over quantity. And I think that's what they want with a data platform. They could get quantities of data anywhere. The problem is it's shitty. We can give them accurate data that are honed in to actually reach their ideal buyer. That's my selling point. So again, not to say it's bad to say I can provide you 10,000 or 500,000 records. Sounds great, but again, as a business owner, I don't really want 500,000 leads plopped on my desk. I'd rather 10,000 of ideal buyers than weeding through 500,000 for me to find those 10,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely, Ray. And then this is why the triage call is so important, right?
100% correct. To find out
Gotcha.
exactly what they're looking for, build the proper expectations, and make sure that they are a good fit for your product and service. That's number one. Number two, objective of a triage call is a soft yes in terms of a financial pre-qualifier. As I say to round out every triage call before I go to the next one. Hey, Nathan, so we set your next call for Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if everything lines up and makes sense, and you see a clear path on how to solve this targeting problem so you can make your ads more profitable, is there anything that would stop us from investing and moving forward to further your business on that call? That's how I always wrap up a triage call. That's what I call a soft yes. in terms of a financial pre-qualifier. And I've said this in the past, so it might be redundant for some of you, but I ask it very specifically like that, as opposed to the other way people ask it. Hey, Nathan, if everything lines up, would you be willing to move forward on Friday? And if they just ask that, you almost don't think about it and you say yes. I want them to think, and I want them to say, no, Ray, there's nothing stopping me from moving forward. I'm trying to suss out objections right now on the triage call rather than when I'm on the sales call. Hey, Ray, the only thing that would stop me from moving forward when we meet Fridays, I have a business partner and I don't really make any decisions. Okay, well, great. I don't know why we didn't discuss that. That's my bad for not asking that. But is he available Friday at 2 p.m. so we can all be on the call? If not, Nathan, let's reschedule when we're all available. That way nobody's time is wasted and we can make sure we answer everybody's question, right? So now I just eliminated that now, rather than getting to the sales call, getting to the end, and now him saying, oh, Ray, I don't make a decision without my my business partner. Right now, I know now prior, and I can make sure. So I'm using that soft yes as number one, them getting to agree to move forward and make a financial decision, and number two, to suss out any objections before the actual sales call.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, those are the main
sense.
objectives. Make sure the person's a perfect fit for what you offer, and then you want to go into a full demo call, and then soft yes, financially pre-qualify them.
Got
Hey,
it.
Rick.
Go ahead.
Hey, wanted to ask if I'm having trouble getting anybody, like I'm getting good open rates with the data, but I'm not having good responses and replies. Who can I talk to about like the hooks, or where can I go? Like, I think, did you put a resource out there today?
Yeah. So actually, really quick before we hop off, and then you could reach back out to me and happily shoot me either a Google Doc or some screenshots with your verbiage and the terminology you're using, and I'll give you some feedback. But in terms of this document, have you seen this or do you have this, Stephen?
Let
This
me check.
document. Oh, can you guys not see my screen? I'm sorry. I thought I screen shared. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, now I got screen share. Does this document look familiar? And do you have this, Stephen?
Checking. I think you just shared that in the beginning, right?
Correct. So
Yeah,
within this one, I just want to show you within this one, hover over number 3 and then click the link that comes down.
Cool.
This is number 3 on that is all the current ads, email, creative, copy, messaging, email. So go through and troubleshoot some of the creative that we put together. Maybe spin it back and forth against some of your messaging and see what you come up with. But happily shoot me a quick little Loom video or a Google Doc with your copy, and I'll give you some coaching points and some feedback on it.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate all your help.
All right, guys.
Appreciate everything.
No, you're very welcome. Great stuff. Thank you for all the interaction and the questions. And I got to run to my next call, guys. So I'll have this recording uploaded into school within the next couple hours if anybody needs to watch it back. Awesome.
Cheers.
Have a good rest of your day, everybody.